So you all know who this is, right? I know, stupid question, but this is just to get you all up to speed. We all know Superman. Came from Krypton, was raised in Kansas by Ma and Pa Kent, has out-of-this-world powers, grew up and moved to Metropolis to become a journalist. There's the love of his life, Lois Lane, his best friend Jimmy Olsen, his arch-nemesis Lex Luthor, his friends with Batman, forms the Justice League, and there are his familial allies, those being his cousin Supergirl, and their trusty pet, Krypto the Superdog, the latter who became one of the biggest marketing points of the 2025 movie, which I went to see and is pretty fucking awesome, by the way. The theater even clapped at the end. But some of you might not remember that like 3 years ago, this little pooch had his own animated movie, and you know what that means? He's voiced by a big Hollywood celebrity, and in this case, he's played by... Yep, this thing was made during this guy's hostile takeover.
Things will never be the same, because the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Remember when everyone used to love him, but then over the years he became one of the most egotistical people in Hollywood? Well, this direction he was steering the DC brand towards was probably his big fat ego at its worst. You know, before he later reminded Disney that Moana made them money. Why is it getting a live action remake? Like, why? So what did he do here, you may ask? Well, he ordered the studio to let him play Shazam's arch nemesis, Black Adam, then ordered to give him an entire movie as an anti-hero, then also ordered to have him fight Henry Cavill's Superman before properly fighting his own hero, which also key-dangled all the Snyder Bros to the point they blamed the wrong person when that didn't come to fruition. And he also made this other piece of corporate shit, DC League of Super Pets. Alright, let's talk about it, but just to not sound too cynical, let's go over my positives with it. The animation actually looks really stunning. This is exactly how Metropolis should look like in anything. John Krasinski is actually a really good voice for Superman. Some jokes are actually funny, like this one about the infinite Earths. It's honestly pretty insulting that this is the only post-2017 movie where the Justice League acts like a proper pre-established hero team. If that's not proof of how embarrassing Warner Bros. Management has been lately, I don't know what is. And lastly, despite the movie being filled with the most burned out kids movie cliches, I like how they don't force the heroes to have some contrived big blowout before the climax. Seriously, that trope has pretty much become the norm that I'm fucking sick of it. Other than that, yeah, I'm sorry, this movie is just mid. So, as you guys already know, this is another movie where domestic animals have a secret life and they communicate with each other as if they were normal people. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Well, so you think at least. I say that because this movie just overcomplicates its own rules. Krypto acts like what you'd expect a dog to act like if they had human-like conscience. He's playful, messy, loud, impatient, kind of a dum-dum, etc. As well as these other animals. But then you have these other animals who understand, or at the very least, have a grasp of how the world works. These dogs explain marriage to Krypto. This corgi knows what FedEx is. Ace easily understands whatever situation he's in, no problem. At least the villain, Lulu, being a mad genius makes sense because she's Lex Luthor's guinea pig. So I can understand her being able to go as far as to even operating whatever piece of technology she has. And I guess these hamsters basically live in a school, so I don't know what much to say there. But everything else is just too all over the place. Apparently Krypto also has a Jor-El-like father who has pre-recorded hologram guides for him, which... Okay, I'm not even gonna bother opening this can of worms. It's also single-handedly Keith David's most forgettable role, so who cares? Why does this cat have the power to morph into militarized weapons if the orange kryptonite is supposed to only give basic elemental-based powers? You know, like telekinesis, growing and shrinking, invulnerability, you name it. Why bazookas and grenades? One thing that doesn't make sense in the human side of things is how the Justice League finds it out of this world that Superman loves his dog. And it's even weirder that the various reasons they're indifferent to animal affection is because of the stupidest circumstances. Flash once had a cheetah that ate his landlord and destroyed his couch. And he's even more bummed by the latter. Whether this is Barry Allen or Wally West, can we all agree this counts as character assassination? Thank you. Green Lantern had a raccoon that thought they were dating. Go figure out how that happened. And Batman, of course, goes on about his traumatizing experience with bats. Yeah, for some reason, Bruce is the most parodied character here. This movie just constantly references any piece of history about him in an oddly comedic fashion every chance it gets. As one of the many people who loves this character, it is nauseating. And finally, can we talk about how in some scenes it'll look like the humans perfectly understand the animals? At best you have scenes like these where the animal is talking and the human just waits until they finish their sentence. And at worst you have scenes like this one where it looks like Batman is understanding Lulu and the hamster's dialogue. Remember the recent Garfield movie where sometimes it looked like John could understand what Garfield's saying? It's kind of like that but way more noticeable. Like, guys, do you even pay attention to your own screenplay? I can't believe I'm saying this, but not even The Secret Life of Pets did this. As far as I can remember. Okay, with all that covered, let's talk about the characters. I don't know if it was obvious, but this cast is pretty bare bones. You got Krypto, who has a pretty dumb arc about learning to accept Lois as part of Clark's life, and it has so many problems. So, this movie makes it very clear Krypto has been with Clark ever since they were both infants, right? It also establishes that Superman and Lois have known each other for long enough for them to be considering engagement. So you mean to tell me that despite all that time, Krypto never fully trusted Lois despite being his owner's flipping girlfriend? And it gets even worse. In the middle of the movie, when he comforts one of his new friends, he describes to her what makes Wonder Woman the hero she is. Meaning that he came to trust and even respect Diana, but not Lois? Really? And believing this due to a lack of friendships of his own, Clark's galaxy brain idea is to get him a friend. You mean that despite the fact your dog is just as old as yourself, you never once considered getting him to socialize? Are you kidding me? Also, can I just say, this scene where Ace just escapes and no one sees or hears him is complete bullshit. Not even Superman, who has super hearing, catches on to this? Seriously? Ace is mostly just a sarcastic sidekick for Krypto. I sure wonder why. But I guess he does have an emotional backstory with a big contrivance in itself, but you know. Plus, it's not like with the Ghost of Molly McGee's finale where I'm still wondering how the fuck does this work. But probably my biggest gripe with him is that at the end, he and Batman share their tragic past in noirish dramatic styles and it doesn't work. Why? Because Ace never presented himself like some dark creature of the night. Throughout the movie, he's just, like I said, our sarcastic comedic sidekick for The Rock. I mean, Krypto. But anyway, the rest of the characters are pretty one note. There's this pig who stands Wonder Woman like some awkward fangirl. This turtle whose whole joke is that she's blind and sometimes swears with a bleep sound, and it's not as funny or clever as this movie thinks it is. All I'm saying is, you'll never be Perrito. This squirrel clearly has ADHD, though I have no idea why they give him electricity powers, which doesn't even correlate with Green Lantern at all. Lulu is just such a boring villain. She feels like something Illumination would come up with. She's not funny, she's not intimidating, her only accomplishment was strapping to Justice League by sheer fucking luck. Hey, postscript Andres here. I just remembered she did take away Krypto's powers for the entire movie, so, you know, I guess that gives her 2 accomplishments. So, congratulations, Lulu the guinea pig, you're twice the villain I thought you were. Not to mention, all of these characters have fought way more dangerous individuals than a bunch of school hamsters who just happen to have a single elemental-based power. Don't believe me that this is pure bullshit? Okay, look at how they got Aquaman. They made him fall from like a short height and he broke one of his limbs, which is already nonsensical in itself since Aquaman has fucking super strength. But next time we see him, he is completely fine. They just went out of their way to nerf the Justice League to the stupidest degrees. Also, why is she evil? I get that Lex influenced her, but why is she a sociopath? Why does she just leave the other animals to die? Like, what did they do to her? She's just deliciously evil for the sake of it. Now, if there were any characters that are actually good, it's the main Superman cast. Superman mostly acts exactly like how you'd picture him in anything. Lois has that classic gag that she's pretty much used to any crazy thing happening in her life, and she just goes with it like the snarky, intrepid thrill seeker she is. And Lex is unironically the best character. He has the best jokes, the best lines, and I love how they stayed consistent with who he is, that in the middle of the movie, he just betrays Lulu despite all the lengths she went for him. Like, that's classic Lex Luthor. Hates Superman and dangerous people with a scummy grin on his face, and will use anyone for his schemes. On the other side of the dime, probably the worst character here is Batman. How is it that the Justice League act like relatively normal people, but he's the only one who acts like a walking cartoon character? Throughout the movie, he just constantly references key moments in his life, and Lex's fucking tower. And in the final battle, he has this dumb self-aware joke about working alone, but he also has like a dozen sidekicks. Now, that's not the problem in itself. My issue is that he refers to Lucius, you know, the guy who built his gadgets and who he trusts running his family's company, as, quote, whoever Morgan Freeman played. Like, I don't even know what to say. Is the joke that Batman broke the fourth wall there? Is that supposed to be funny? Well, that would be fine. If only one, this was a Lego movie or something where he is very clearly aware he's a fictional character. Two, if it was some character no one could give less of a shit about. And three, he's doing this in a scene where Lulu is this giant orange abomination and is attacking everybody at sight. Like, bruh, do something already. You don't have time for this. One thing they could have done to show that this is a more lighthearted take is if they gave him the gray and blue suit. You know, like in the 60s Adam West show or The Brave and the Bold. But no, they couldn't even bother to do that. Since I just mentioned an actor, let's talk about The Rock is not a good voice for Krypto. Here's my double sense on the topic of celebrity voice actors. When the character is created with the actor in mind, that's when it works best. Tom Hanks as Woody, Tim Allen as Buzz Lightyear, Mike Myers as Shrek, Eddie Murphy as Donkey, Jack Black as Poe, Chris Pratt as Emmett, etc. But when the actor in question is only brought in to voice a pre-established character, not because they fit the character in some way, but purely because of their star power alone, that's where I draw the line. Chris Pratt as both Mario and Garfield, Zac Efron as Fred Jones, 3 pop singers in a row as Smurfette, and in this case, you've got The Rock and Kevin Hart as Krypto and Ace respectively. And the choice was so obviously desperate that they even made it the entire point of their promotional posters. Yeah, remember this shit? Now, sometimes these Hollywood name voice actings can work. There's Ben Schwartz, Idris Elba, and Keanu Reeves as their respective Sonic characters, Shameik Moore as Miles, awkward, Haley Steinfeld as Spider-Gwen, just recently Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry as Optimus Prime and Megatron respectively. Or how about the best example from DC themselves? Mark Hamill, the guy who was known as the main character from frickin' Star Wars, became the go-to voice for the Joker. But back to the movie. The problem with The Rock as Krypto is that he has the voice of some big raspy tough guy. I don't know, I'm just saying that I'd only hear this voice from a bull or an ox character, not a dog. It's even worse when in the post-credits scene he also voices Black Adam, I wonder why, and even his fucking dog. How much more egotistical can you be? Credit where credit's due, Kevin Hart actually disguises his voice as Ace. When you first hear him, you don't think of that high-pitched short guy who screams a lot. You, for the most part, hear a character. Like I said before, John Krasinski surprisingly sounds exactly like how I'd imagine Superman. He's the equivalent to Jake Johnson and Chris Pine for Peter in the Spider-Verse movies. Everyone else is just fine, but the worst one is definitely Keanu Reeves as Batman. He just does not do anything to change his voice. And worse yet, he doesn't even sound interested. There's no passion in any of his lines. In the Lego movies, Will Arnett straight up makes the character his own thing. Here, I just hear Keanu Reeves, not Batman. Just like I only hear Movie Sonic from this one hamster. Hey, wait a minute! So after the Justice League is rescued, Lulu becomes this orange monster thing, because why not? So both the Justice and Super Pet Leagues team up to fight her, but it's all hopeless. Until Krypto defeats her by using a deadly Super Sun attack that was teased in the middle of the movie. Oh, not in a clever way like you'd see in a good movie. They're pretty much telling you this is what they'll use to solve the problem at the end. Granted, it's not like in Lightyear where they never shut up about this guy's pen every time he's on screen, but it's still the lamest thing you can ever do in a story. So predictably, all the Justice League members adopt each animal that coincidentally fits their skill set. Krypto accepts Lois, Superman proposes to her, they all get super costumes, the Corgi became big, blue, and says he ate the FedEx guy. They all go into action, the story's over, then Mercy Graves decides to find Lulu and adopt her, because I guess they both relate to each other on how much bullshit Lex has given them. Insert mandatory Black Adam commercial here. Putting aside this movie was only made to satisfy The Rock's ego, it's just another generic movie about animals having a secret life. Don't get me wrong, it's not as bad as Secret Life of Pets, since that movie is a blatant Toy Story ripoff, and its sequel is one of the most boring movies ever made. Plus, similar to Teen Titans Go, despite its problems, you can tell the team do have their DC knowledge, but other than that, this movie is just nothing special. It's boring, dull, corporately safe, and man, I am glad there's now an actually good movie that introduces Krypto to the general audience. So really, what else is there to say? Well, I will say this. The Rock was right about one thing. The hierarchy of power of the DC Universe did change. But for the better. Rather than the way only he wanted. Also, I tried to watch Moana 2 and yeah, it's weirdly paced, the conflict is super uninspired, the new characters really do feel like they were written for a TV show. Moana herself was the only reason I was even watching, because I think we're getting off the subject. And once they played the fucking goat scream, I was finally like, done! If you like this video, give it a like, and if you'd like to see more videos from me, like reviews, rankings, tops, unboxings, etc., make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, tell everyone about me because you know how YouTube works these days, and comment your thoughts down below. Till next time, stay faithful and hopeful.